was a mess, but we conquered it, got the mission done along with the Army and the Marine Corps, and so it was a bloody battle. It's named by Hamburger Hill. And so it went on for a while, but
the Army maps call it Hill 937, but to the 3,000 American soldiers from the 101st Airborne Division who spent the better part of a week trying to take it, it's better known as Hamburger Hill. 3,000 feet of triple canopy jungle jammed with North Vietnamese troops. When the Americans first began to climb these 70-degree slopes, they expected the enemy to withdraw 2 miles away across the Laotian border. Instead, the enemy defenders chose to fight it out, and as the days passed, casualties on both sides were ground out at such a fearful rate that Hill 937 got its nickname, Hamburger Hill.
A lot of times, sometimes we'd have a fire base on top of the mountain, and we would take that mountain, and the VC would, the NVA would start coming up from the bottom to try to overcome it, and we would fight them off. And so we started a fire base over here, and what we did was we had an armored vehicle called an Ontos that had 6 rocket grenade launchers on the side of them, 3 on each side. And we took those cannons off and put them in the belly of our helicopter. Then we made false wooden bulldozer blades and tacked it on the front of them. And so when the VC saw us, or the NVA saw us go up there to put that, to them it was bulldozer. Then we set it down and we took the wooden thing off the front of it, wasn't any good anyway, and put the barrels back on it. And when they came up that night, we were waiting on them. You know, they didn't realize they were Ontos instead of bulldozers. So we played, not games, but there's things you just gotta stay ahead of like that, you know, in order to survive. And so they play their tricks, we play our tricks. And so, but we stopped that right away. They weren't too anxious to climb the mountain anymore.
Right. By the 6th day, the American ranks had thinned noticeably. The dead and wounded were streaming back in frightening numbers. Helicopter pilots braved a hail of enemy fire to retrieve the casualties from the slopes and carry them back to hospitals. Army corpsmen did what they could for the wounded until medevac helicopters arrived to take them on to more civilized treatment. As in the heat of midday, the 101st Airborne stormed the last few smashed enemy bunkers at the peak of Hamburger Hill and conquered it. The remaining enemy defenders fled toward Laos, carrying their wounded. One American soldier, borne along on a litter, holding an enemy bullet in his stomach, put it bluntly. "My God," he said, "that hill is absolute suicide."
I'm asking you a question. You right? Rolling? Colonel, can you tell me why you think that the NVA were protecting that hill?
Well, we don't know. I suspect it's the 29th NVA Regimental Headquarters. It's a big enough complex. Certainly was enough well-equipped troops and everything up there. And it's an ideal place. It controls the Ashaw Valley, and you couldn't have an airstrip or anything in this valley as long as they held that hill.
You think the NVA withdrew, or you actually drove them out?
No question about it. They didn't withdraw. We drove them out, and we're now in pursuit of them, and there's a hell of a lot of them dead up there. Over.
You've achieved your objective now. What do you got from here?
Oh, we'll consolidate on the hill. We've already got it. There's one other little area which the other unit, the Arvin unit, we're trying to get them to push into, which they'll accomplish in just a little bit. Then we'll continue to clean the area out and search out the NVA and destroy them and run them out of South Vietnam.
Were you convinced you'd get the hill today?
Well, yeah, we didn't have left here if we wasn't convinced we were going to get it.
Tell me, why did you use a ground assault in preference to clearing the area and using B-52s?
Well, you couldn't put a B-52 on there and be sure of absolutely destroying it. You still have to go in. We bombed it. We put more ordnance and stuff on it than a single B-52 or even multiple B-52 strikes would put. You got to remember that you don't own a thing. You haven't destroyed anything until you go up there with foot soldiers and destroy everything that's up there. Air power is great, and we couldn't have made it without it, but you still have to go up and destroy these complexes and everything that's up there, and his weapons and his equipment, and run his soldiers out of South Vietnam.
Tomorrow is Memorial Day, and speeches will ring with the phrase, "These dead shall not have died in vain." I wish I could be sure that phrase applies to the 55 young Americans whose lives ended on Hamburger Hill last week. Apparently, we attacked the hill only because the North Vietnamese were on it. And now that we have killed most of them, we have no real interest in staying there. It is fair to assume that other North Vietnamese will come back to it, and if we follow the rationale of the first attack, we will attack again, with, I suppose, the same result, another victory. It is hard to say these things. I've never been among those who believed that generals were heartless people who regarded the war as a sort of game, nor have I been unaware of the long-term responsibilities of the two presidents who have known that a false peace now could lead to an even bigger war and greater casualties in the future. However, if, as his aides say, Mr. Nixon is trying to buy time to keep public opinion with him so that he can negotiate a meaningful peace, then I suggest that Hamburger Hill may have been militarily correct but politically wrong, because there has been an entirely understandable and adverse reaction to it. Senator Mansfield said today, areas are won and lost many times on a temporary basis. Lives are lost but once, and on a permanent basis. President Johnson used to say the war was basically a test of wills, theirs and ours. Well, the American people have great staying power, and it is no sign of weakening will to recall that some of the young men who died last week on Hamburger Hill were only 10 years old when the first American fell in Vietnam. I think that entitles us to say, with great respect, hurry, Mr. President, hurry.